Just a few film nerds breaking out of a rut, drooling over cinema that's hard and uncut. Stick us in your ear, thrill to this month's picks, and come and listen in, we're measuring flicks.
Do it.
Valley girl, she's a valley girl. Valley girl, she's a valley girl. Okay, fine, for sure, for sure. She's a valley girl in a clothing store. Okay, fine, for sure, for sure.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Measuring Flicks. I'm Karl Hartley.
I'm Max Peterson, and in case you were curious, this week we are covering Valley Girl, 1983. I didn't even get a director. Who gives a shit? This
No,
movie's
it's Martha Coolidge, man.
Oh, Martha Coolidge. God bless you, you fabulous, fabulous woman.
Oh, she also directed Real Genius, so that's...
Wait, really?
Hey, right.
Same lead actress.
Yeah.
The Val Kilmer movie. Mm-hmm. Can you hammer a 6-inch spike
Yes.
through a board with your penis? Not right now.
Not right now.
Well, a girl's got to have her standards. Mm-hmm. What's up? Uh-oh, that's no good. My Skeletal will do it. It's upstairs on the... This is not part of the show. It's upstairs on the same thing as the lamp.
The end table.
Whatever the fuck. You know what I'm trying to say. How did you know? Even you don't live here.
It's normally real.
Can I tell you what we heard on the intro there? I could not resist. That's Valley Girl by Frank Zappa. Mm-hmm. Can I tell you a quick story about that
I would love
song?
to.
Okay.
Hear it.
Under sad circumstances, I had to fly from Maine to Michigan last year at about this time of year. It was late May. So I got a call and I had to very suddenly get on a plane. I got on the plane within 12 hours of getting a phone call, and I flew into Marquette. It sounds sad. I promise you the story is funny in retrospect. So there was a lot of concern that I wouldn't be able to get into Marquette because the weather was so fucking bad. And it wasn't just like, oh yeah, we got some heavy snow and planes are delayed. My brother called me as my first plane took off to get me back home, and he said, "Dude, I don't think your planes are gonna be able to land, man." Because I was in Biddeford. It was Portland to Chicago to Marquette, and I was en route to Chicago. And Sam's like, "Dude, I don't know if your plane's gonna be able to fly into Marquette." And I'm like, well, "Why? What's going on?" And he's like, "Well, we've got some really high winds." I'm like, "Yeah, they get high winds all the time." He's like, "It's blowing the roofs off people's houses."
Oh shit.
I was like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, and one of my friends, like half of her roof blew off. It was blowing people's doors in, like closed doors, not like open and flying off.
It's like tornado.
Yeah, like it was microbursts all through town. It blew the hospital doors into the waiting room, so they had to
only supposed to blow the bloody doors off.
They literally had to shut a wing of the hospital down because the wind had blown the doors into the building, like flying down the hall doors. So he's like, "Yeah, the wind is fucking insane. There's no way you're not land here." So we land in Chicago. The wind is pretty bad there too, and it's like snow, and they're saying it's only going to get worse. And I'm freaking out because I really have to get home. So I'm like, fuck, but I don't want to die in a plane crash.
Right.
So I'm like, guys, if you got to call it. We'll figure something out.
Right.
So I'm sitting at the terminal, and everyone around me they're all on their phone because everyone at that terminal is heading to Marquette, and they're
Makes
like,
sense.
"Yeah, they're saying that the flight's going to shut down."
You're having that planes, trains, and automobiles sort of moment.
Yeah, there's no way we're getting in. There's no way we're getting in. Then a pilot walks past us. And they haven't called anyone to get on the plane yet. No one. We're all sitting there. The stewardesses who like help take your ticket and shit are looking at each other like, "I don't think so. I don't think so." A pilot walks by, and she turns to us and she goes, "What are you guys all doing sitting around? Let's get you to Marquette." And walks down the gangplank.
What?
Lady pilot. She's got she's got her pilot uniform on, but over it, leather bomber jacket. She was like fucking Indiana Jones just walked down the goddamn thing.
What are you guys still sitting here? We're going to Marquette.
In my memory, she's smoking a big-ass cigar.
When you were telling me the story just now, she was smoking a fucking cigarette. I swear to God.
It was amazing, dude. Like it was everything short of like take the cigarette out, what are you guys waiting for? Huge pull off a pint of like Jim Beam or
Right.
Evan Williams. I'm like, I'm getting you to Marquette, and then she strides off, just smoking, like getting you here down the hallway, like get the fuck out of my way. And, like,
Right.
and she gets
Get these fucking doors open.
right, exactly. So we're all sitting on the plane, and like everyone's looking around, like, is she a pilot?
Is
she
this
really,
real life?
Is she really a pilot? Is this for real? So we take off. It's fine. Chicago's not too bad, but as we get like close-ish to Marquette,
Like,
we my brother on the tarmac, my brother's texting me. He's like, yeah, dude, you're not getting out. I'm like, I'm on my plane right now. They're about to take off. He's like, what? So the whole trip, all I had on my iPod, because a friend of mine gave me like 15 gigs of Frank Zappa. I know this is a long story, but I think people will find it funny. All I have is Frank Zappa, so I'm listening to Zappa. I've never listened to him before, and it's like weird jazzy shit. I'm like, oh, this is strange. And I hit this song Valley Girl, like 10 minutes out from Marquette. And I hear it ding, so I take my headphones off like halfway through the song. And I'm loving it. It's a fun song. And it's the pilot. And she goes, hey, just so everybody knows, like, we got some crazy winds going on in Marquette right now. So, I don't know, like buckle your seatbelts. And that was it. It wasn't even
I don't know.
it wasn't even like, like, oh, we're gonna get you there on time. The weather's
Right.
pretty crazy. She's just like, buckle up. And that was it. I was like, part of me was like,
I'm in love with this pilot,
I know.
by the way.
Part of me was terrified, and part of me was just fully erect. I'm
Yep.
like, Jesus, you are so badass. So now this is where shit gets fucked up and maybe a little irresponsible on the part of this pilot and the airline. But we came down in like I think it was like they were saying it was like a 50 or 60 mile an hour
Like a crosswind?
breeze.
Shit.
Okay, I'm sitting in the tail of the plane, okay?
The
And
tail's in front of the nose at that point.
I have never experienced as like it's not turbulence anymore. Like the lights go out.
You're being jackhammered.
Yeah, it was fucked up, dude. Like we were like tilting, and okay, I can look out my window and see the ground. We're within like 400 feet of the ground, and we're tilted so far to the side that I'm looking down the wing at the ground, like 300 feet away. We're down, and we're hitting this crazy cross breeze, and there. So during this last 10 minutes, I was like, if I'm gonna die, I want, and I swear to you, it felt like a very real possibility. I want my iPod to be playing Valley Girl on repeat.
Oh
and my whole thought was, so if the investigators find my corpse, they're like, this guy was listening to Valley Girl
by
on
Frank
repeat.
Zappa.
I had the volume on max. I had fucking Valley Girl. I'm sweating. I'm in a puddle of my own piss and shit. My knuckles are as white as it goes. I'm crushing the old woman's hand to my right. She's screaming Jesus' name over and over again, and Frank Zappa's going, Valley Girl, she's a Valley Girl. And at one point, I remember I looked out my window, and it didn't make sense because I saw the runway. We were so fucking far to our right that looking straight out my window, I saw the runway. I was like, we're dead. We are fucking dead. And then within like 3 feet of touchdown, the plane went just like glass.
That's a
And
great
she
pilot.
touched us down. Best part, you know how the pilot usually like hangs out and is like, thanks for flying with us. The second we were like connected to the gangway, she gets up and walks off the plane. Dude, like rock star status.
Just
It
like
was
mic drop,
amazing.
walking out.
Oh my God.
Enjoy Marquette
We
dicks.
all applauded.
Oh, of course.
The whole plane was like, I cannot believe. So I get off the plane, like just squishing in my piss pants. And my brother hugs me, and he's like, dude, how are you? And I'm like, stunned, deaf, Valley Girl's ringing in my head, and he goes, your plane today is the only plane that landed here at all
day.
No planes took off. Everything before you was canceled. Everything after you was canceled. And the whole airport just watched your plane land, and we all thought you guys were gonna fucking die because they saw the plane like doing that jacked
There are
up
YouTube
shit.
videos of like heavies coming down in those crosswinds, and
Yeah.
it's like, oh, they gonna die.
Okay,
Yeah.
but when you hit a crosswind and the plane's just like, I guess we're just gonna go all the way around now. You just
Right.
barrel. Yeah,
Right.
you're just like you're spinning around like a car drifting around a corner. It was terrifying, but I have a deep connection to the song Valley Girl, and thank you for letting me tell that
No,
story.
absolutely, it's a great story.
Okay, so
We are on pick number 2 of Nick.
pick 3.
Pick 3 of Nick picks?
Yeah,
That's
we did.
Right.
Yeah, we did Drive Angry. We did Kiss of Death.
That's right. This is number 3 already.
Number 3. It's been to go back to the plane allegory, a bit of a choppy month.
It has been. Holy shit.
For you, maybe.
Well, I'm getting over it. It's fine.
Thoughts right off the top of right off your top of your head.
Okay, right off the
Go ahead.
top of my head. Okay, so I missed this movie completely in the 80s. It wasn't even something that I was aware of. I was vaguely aware of like the cover of this movie with Nicolas Cage with his, no shirt and a tie.
Sure, with his radical hair.
But it came out in 1983, was R-rated. I was not allowed to watch any R-rated movies ever under any circumstances until like Die Hard came out, and that was like a one and done sort of situation. So it completely missed me. This is the first time that I've actually seen this movie. So with that being said, this is also not my type of movie. Okay. I'm not a fan of I don't like rom-coms anyway, which this sort of is, but it's more like the party movie, guy meets girl. Yeah. It's a retelling of Romeo and Juliet very loosely, but it is. The director, even there's a nod
There's
in the movie
a nod to Romeo and Juliet. Wrong side of the tracks, yeah.
But it's just not. I think I actually wrote this down on my notes too. That even if I had seen this, I probably would have enjoyed it if I were younger. I think that as I've grown older, I turned 41 in July. I don't think that broad comedies are in my bag anymore, which is really weird because they have been for a lot, like the Happy Gilmores, the Adam Sandler movies, like the very broad sort of comedies. This is a little more deep than that. This isn't a Judd Apatow, which also carries some heart, but it's like, wow, I think that I have sort of grown past. I more appreciate a movie that has some honest humor in it rather than like a broad sort of comedy.
Right.
And the movies of this ilk that did speak to me when I was of the age that this sort of movie is sort of directed at, like in high school or just past high school, it's meant to feel sort of nostalgic and dreamy in a way, would be like Trojan Wars or Can't Hardly Wait, like that kind of movie. Or you pick any of your John Hughes flicks, right?
Right. I earlier
like 16 Candles or any of those. But I had a hard time making it through this movie.
Yeah,
I told you before, I fell asleep
asleep
3 fucking times watching this movie, and the only way I did make it all the way through is to turn on the director commentary because I could find some like trivia or insights or whatever. That's how I found out that Martha Coolidge directed Real Genius and that she actually knew Francis Coppola, who was how she got to get Nick Cage in the movie, who was still Nick Coppola at the time.
Right. He's credited as Nicolas Cage.
He's Nicolas Cage. This is his first movie credit as Nicolas Cage and not Nick Coppola. So, yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
But my overall sort of set, like, I can't say that I enjoyed it because I fucking fell asleep 3 times.
That's true.
I didn't laugh out loud once.
Really?
I got some sort of chuckles. It was the nostalgia that I was enjoying. I was like, oh my God, look at that Knuckle Buster credit card, the machine that they have to use in the very beginning. And oh my God, they spent $200 whole in the mall.
Oh my God, my first note is $192. That's like 2 shirts at J. Crew.
No, seriously, but like it was those sort of moments that I was getting like chuckles in moments of fun. I'm like, oh my God, look at all those pastels and popped collars and like. But once that sort of sense of nostalgia of the 80s, because I didn't watch this movie, but I was a child of the 80s,
right?
So all that, but once that nostalgia for me sort of wore over, the movie really fucking tanked for me, and I was like, this is just not a good retelling of anything or original story. It's a guy from the wrong side of the tracks, right? Meets the girl. It's a dude from Hollywood who's a punk that meets a preppy girl from the valley.
Right.
And they fall in love at a party, and they like each other, but the friends of the girl don't like the guy, so then they break up. She gets back with the guy, and then they have a send up to the graduate at the very end when they're driving off together. So it's like, and there's not much funny in this movie except for the Nick Cage montage when he's trying to get her back.
Oh my God, that's delightful.
That is
absolutely
fantastic,
delightful.
And the soundtrack in this movie
is also amazing,
fucking stellar, dude. Like some of the best
went to
music.
Try and find it. To buy
I'm like,
it.
can I get this?
Hell yeah!
Because I want all of these songs in that order, like just some really obscure '80s stuff, but also like the stuff that you would expect on Pandora.
When Bird got home, the first thing I did was I spun our Men at Work records that we have.
Fantastic, yes.
It was like you can hear. I don't think there's The Cure, but you hear Morrissey for sure.
yeah.
I think it actually might be back when he was still with the Smiths, the song that we hear, but you hear the Men at Work. They even call out Men at Work.
Yep.
Oh my God. And now here's for those of you who don't know, I'm not 41. I'm 27.
Yeah.
And I think that I really have been enjoying your view and my view of films, and which films that those views dovetail on, and which films we seem to
Interesting.
clash on a little
Yeah.
bit. And it's not like I'm 16 and Karl's 67.
Right.
You know, it's not like some weird like. You know.
No, clearly.
But you grew up in the 80s. I was
Yeah.
born in 1990.
Right.
So I missed entirely that whole era. And growing up in the 90s, we would be exposed to like pictures of people in the 80s. Like,
You're like, what the hell is that?
yeah, like, oh fuck, that's awful. But now, as an adult, as a 27,
And also, the 80s have come back in a very big way now with like shows like Stranger Things.
Yes.
Like Ready Player One just came out. So there's this huge 80s nostalgia happening right now.
I actually had
pop culture.
the 80s nostalgia. If any 80s like modern 80s nostalgia buffs out there who are comic book fans, I actually got on the 80s nostalgia train with Stephen King, like when I was a child.
That makes sense. Yeah.
But there's a comic book called Paper Girls, which is it's like Stranger Things before Stranger Things, because it came out I think a year before Stranger Things aired, and it's about like 3 young girls who are on a paper route. Or they have a paper route and aliens start showing up, and there's like conspiracy, and there's like Men in Black, and there's like it's Stranger Things in comic book form a year before Stranger Thing happens. It's awesome, and Stranger Things is fucking awesome. But
Yes.
yeah, growing up I had that. You read you read any of Stephen King's like early stuff, Christine that has that
yeah.
like kind of greaser rockabilly.
Well, his
He writes in the 60s a lot, but it has that 80s feel. So watching this movie, I have the same thing. I'm sure you get it when you watch Stranger Things too, where you're like you feel nostalgic for like a lost age. And like you mentioned John Hughes, and it's weird because I equate this in my head. This is like
a Lost John Hughes movie.
well, no, it's like if John Hughes wrote a script and then Kevin Smith directed it.
Okay, no, because I got that sort of sense too that it felt like a Kevin Smith movie
Yeah.
for a hot second, like a Chasing Amy meets Mallrats in a
Or
sort
like
of way.
Zack and Miri, but without all the sex
Without the
stuff.
sex stuff. This is one of Kevin Smith's favorite movies. He actually, when his wife was pregnant with his first daughter, brought this movie to the hospital with them to watch it.
Seriously?
Yeah, I'm dead serious.
Well, there you go,
Yeah.
man. So this
So
movie...
no, I get it. It's just I wasn't personally enjoying it.
Gotcha.
And this is Nick Cage month, so what I was really trying to focus on
Was Nick Cage. He drops out of it for big
He drops
chunks.
out of it for big chunks, and in the chunks that he is in, I feel like he's so early. It's like almost not. He hasn't found Nick Cage yet. You
There's
see some
flashes.
You see flashes like when he breaks. He gets kicked out of a party because he's mooching on some preppy's ex-girlfriend. So he gets kicked out of a party and sneaks back into the party and hides out in the shower in the bathroom
God.
because he understands that at some point she's probably going to come into the bathroom, which is fucking genius.
Yeah. It's
But
genius.
it's creep genius, but you're also seeing like this weird high school party from a very strange perspective of like just a few little vignettes of what these kids are doing in the bathroom.
Yeah, at first I thought it was going on too long, but then I started liking it again.
Yeah,
where I'm like,
exactly.
oh.
And he's reacting in a unique way to each one of them, and that is because I watched the director's commentary because it's the only way I can stay awake. Is he?
Oh, you fell asleep that early? That's like
Oh no,
10
not that
minutes
early.
in.
But I had to go back
Okay,
and start from the
yeah.
beginning. But so the director put him in that shower for like 2 fucking hours or something with a camera on him, and is like, just go. And then would explain what's happening. It's like, all right, so some people are coming in now and they're smoking marijuana cigarettes, and so react to that. So they picked like the best improv moments that he had.
Right.
And it's in that moment you can sort of start to see young Nick Cage like figuring his own self out.
Own self.
He figure him own self out.
Yeah.
In shower, he do.
There's definite like Nick Cage flashes in there.
Flashes, but he's only 18 or 19 years old in this movie. So he got fired from another movie that he was working on before this that ended up being something big. I don't remember what it is. But anyway.
This is for me. You can the flash for me wasn't the shower. Although there's in the shower.
The montage when he is trying to get her back when he's at the movie theater, he's wearing the 3D glasses.
That is. Did you see my
And then
Instagram
the
post
hot
today?
dog. I did, yeah.
Okay, come on, man.
But then right
Come
after that is the
on.
best when he's working at the hot dog shack and he's delivering the food and he spits
the
his gum
gum.
out. It's like, oh, I'm sorry about that. Let me get that gum back for you.
Well, the voice he's doing, he's like, he's
so weird,
He literally
like-
says like, "Well, golly gee willikers, and I guess I did forget to bring your fries," and he spits this gum on this
oh,
guy.
gee, sorry about the gum there.
And then he picks it up off him
Puts
and
it back
puts it
in his
back in
mouth.
his mouth. For me, when I first started seeing Nick Cage, like there's in the shower, there's the bit where he makes that like horrified face,
Right.
and there's the, like him like crouched down with his foot like above his head,
Mm-hmm.
and there's some like fun physicality that seems cagey
Right.
to me, cagey. But the part where I started seeing Nick Cage is when he convinces her to come out with him, and they're driving down the strip, and he's like, "Yo, Enrique,
Yeah.
you didn't do that, man. You didn't do that,
Yeah.
man. No." You know,
I
like,
was so distracted. I was so distracted by everything that was
No,
in the background of that scene. I wasn't paying any attention to the movie. Like, oh my god, this Empire Strikes Back is on the marquee. Oh my god,
Oh, it's the Roxy. Look,
it's
they're
like-
driving past the Roxy.
Exactly. It's like I was so
Rocky
distracted
Horror
by
Picture Show.
Rocky Horror
That
Picture
took me
Show.
out of it for like
Yep.
3 minutes. I was
Yep.
like, Rocky Horror Picture
yeah.
Show.
No, exactly.
Oh,
Same
my
thing.
God. My favorite moment. I wrote down my note was Nicolas Cage original teeth. His mouth
This
is
is before he
yeah.
got his grill fixed, dude.
And his
Like,
mouth is a horror in this movie. Not his
and-
fault.
And he shaved his chest hair in the shape of a bikini.
I fucking love his chest hair.
It is a character of its own. You
my
want to talk about physicality
God.
and an actor's body becoming a
This is
character.
his Tom Hardy
This is his Tom Hardy moment. Is his fucking Lee press on chest hair?
When he walks out of the ocean, it's like his Daniel Craig, like
Yep.
Ursula Andress, like walk out of the ocean moment. And they all turn and they're like, "Oh my god! Like look at
Look at
him.
him.
He's like totally hot. Like gag me with a spoon. Like barf me out." And I'm like,
That valley
"Okay,
talk.
dude, I got a soft spot for it. I think it saved my life in a plane crash, almost plane crash one
Right.
day." I firmly believe that God was like, I don't even believe in God, and I firmly believe
Believe
that
it.
God was like, he can't die listening to that song.
can't
It's
die listening
too
to Valley
fucking
Girl."
stupid. But like, okay, come on. For the Valley Girl accent, this is literally one of the first lines our protagonist says. It's like, "I'm totally not in love with you anymore, Charlie." That's a fucking
That's a
line in
line.
this movie, man. Okay, half of my notes are just quotes that I love.
Okay, so half of my notes are just trivia bits.
That's great. We're gonna compliment each other
I
so
love
well
it.
on this episode.
Let me just start at the very. Can I start?
Yeah, go, man.
Okay, so we can.
Are we done talking about how goddamn dreamy Nick Cage's
His-
perfect
oh, it-
Superman crest
Superman,
chest hair?
It is.
It's a perfect V.
Yeah,
it's
I
a-
was-
not a V.
It makes me.
It's like an
wish I had actual chest hair.
Wait, before we get off chest hair, did you fucking see? God, what's his God? It's disgusting. Skip, the one who was like, there was some like weird graduate milfy stuff happening.
Oh right. Oh yes.
Did you see his chest hair growing,
growing
onto his neck?
yeah.
You did see it. Oh, thank God.
I'm like, you need to see to that, sir.
when he is standing there talking to.
Oh, that is actually a note that I have. Is what is with all the
Stacey's.
parents being pedophiles?
By
in
the
this
way, I'd
movie.
like to point out that her name is Stacy. So Stacy's mom
Stacy's mom.
is who he's
has got it going.
Do you think?
Wait, this
'Cause-
is 83.
Valley Girl, big movie, Kevin Smith's favorite. Do we think this is maybe an inspiration? Doesn't matter. Moving on.
Anywho,
So when Skip is standing there and he's in that awesome 2-shot with Stacy's mom and she's just trying so hard for the D, she just wants
She
it.
wants it bad.
Wants it, man. You can hear her running down her own legs as he's standing. I know that was a really horrible way to say that. But Skip's chest hair, I'm like, what's on his neck? Is his neck dirty? No. It's chest hair like up to his Adam's apple. It's fucking revolting, but also amazing.
the note that I wrote was like, "Holy pedophilia, mom," and then later was like, "And dad, was being a pedo considered cute in the '80s?" Question mark.
Are you talking about Steve?
Steve,
Nice
yeah, 'cause
Dad
he's-
Steve?
Yeah, nice dad Steve is like, Oh, you make me wish I was 20 years younger.
That's
And then
early in the movie.
That's
It was
really
like,
early.
If I was 20 years younger.
And the mom was like, am I still attractive? I was like, yeah, I guess so. Fun trivia fact.
Yes.
Francis Coppola directed Apocalypse Now.
Okay.
The mom and dad were in a deleted scene of Apocalypse Now that was then reinstated in the Redux version of Apocalypse
Which
Now.
scene?
He plays. She's a stripper, or the Playboy bunny, and he is a
All right.
soldier.
I'm just going to say it. She is hot, dude.
Oh God, yeah.
Oh, my God.
You know who's hot? Okay.
Stacy's mom is
Stacy's
hot.
mom is hot. No, this is. I had a real.
Julie? Is it Julie?
So the real
Julie's mom's hot.
nostalgic moment for me was I wasn't, like I said, not allowed to watch R-rated movies.
Okay.
One of the movies that I did watch in the late 80s was Pee Wee Herman's Big Adventure.
Okay.
And Dottie is the girl that likes Pee Wee Herman, and Dottie is oh my God,
Which
she's
one?
she plays Lauren, the one at the party that
Is Lauren the...
she's the first boobs in the movie.
Oh, my God. Lauren is the... We have to call her this.
Yeah,
because
her
that's
name
how
is
they play
Deborah.
She's
Her name
she's
is
the-
Elizabeth Daly. Okay,
That's the actress's name?
The actress's name is Elizabeth Daly.
I have a note on her nipples.
Yeah.
I said...
Like perfect?
world's pinkest nipples.
But I had a real moment there. Was like, because I've never seen this movie. All I know of her is like when I first saw it, I'm like, oh my God, it's Dottie. It's Dottie from Pee Wee, and I'm like, those are Dottie's boobs. Like,
Wow.
I went.
So your
my
childhood
there was
you-
no more. So part of my youth and innocence died because Pee Wee Herman got caught masturbating in a cinema, and now I've seen Dottie's boobs.
But also part of your youth, maybe not your innocence, but part of your youth was like Dottie's boobs.
Dottie's.
All right.
But yeah, that was what check. Like,
Exactly.
Check.
That was weird. We've watched a bunch of movies now, several older ones.
Yeah.
And that is one weird thing that I keep bumping into with movies made before like 2000 is that's essentially like like a precursor to date rape is what we're watching.
Oh yeah.
She's all like drunk and she says no like 99 times.
And it ends innocently though enough.
Does
Like,
it?
I don't know.
He's like,
Oh no, he does say
Yeah.
like you can't talk about this.
Right,
If you-
he's like-
I won't say anything if you don't.
well, he's
Yeah.
like, she asks like, so this means you're my boyfriend, right? And he's like, fuck.
Oh, that was really
no.
sad.
Yeah, she's like, are we going steady?
So right.
Go ahead.
Oh, so because no, I did feel the same. But so with Elizabeth Daly, so I checked out her IMDb because I'm like, what else have I missed Dottie in? Because like she was like sort of a crush of mine as a kid,
Right.
Watching Pee Wee Herman's Big Adventure, and my mind got fucking exploded. She goes by another name, E.G. Daly.
Okay.
She is the voice of Tommy Pickles in Rugrats.
You are shitting me.
Fucking shit you not.
Her? Wait. Girl whose boobs we saw first in this film is
Tommy Pickles. The entire run of the show, Rugrats, all of the movies, she's Tommy
We've
Pickles.
seen Tommy Pickles' boobs.
I know, but her voiceover credit is huge. She's been in a ton of
Well,
shit.
in this movie, she does by far the best Valley Girl accent.
Oh yeah,
Like her,
and she was concerned again because I watched the director's commentary.
Yeah,
she was
yeah.
concerned going in that she couldn't do a Valley Girl accent.
Bullshit.
So
She's
as an
the
actor,
best.
she made a choice like she moved in from somewhere else and adopted the accent later.
oh my god,
But she has the
that's-
best Valley Girl
That's
accent. Yeah.
genius, and that would make sense because she's trying to fit in.
Exactly.
That's
So she made that
she's
mental
so-
choice, yeah.
That's amazing.
Yep.
She's one of my favorite parts of this movie. Actually,
Oh, yeah, mine too.
honestly. She's great.
And
Like,
I pissed myself when I realized that she was Tommy Pickles.
yeah, I really liked. You know who? There was a character. What was her name? There's a character. Her friend group is so strange.
It is, right?
Because Lauren is like the whole thing with Lauren is like, oh, she's a little. She's basically they treat her like a hoe bag. She's the experienced one. She's with all the boys or whatever.
Right.
But then there's Stacy, the character Stacy, who likes.
The other punk? Or?
Well, no. Yeah, Stacy ends up liking the other punk. But Stacy's not the one who... There's a scene where we think that Skip is going to get into bed with Stacy's mom.
Right.
But he actually gets into bed with Stacy, right? Unless it's not Stacy that I'm thinking of. It might be a different friend.
God damn
There's
it.
one that's like Pauline or something like that. I'm not sure that is Stacy's mom. I think it's Stacy's mom. There's a lot
Now I
of names.
just have that song in my head for the rest of...
You're not gonna Valley Girl. She's a Valley
That
Girl.
Stacy's mom has got it going on.
Is this gonna be dueling karaoke? Is that
It
what this
might be.
episode's turning into?
Oh God, let's not say we did.
Oh God, I don't know. I'm not sure it was Stacy, but whichever friend it was, I have a note here. I wrote down Stacy, but the name might be wrong. But when that scene later in the diner, when she goes to her dad and she's like, "Who should I choose, Dad?" Like, I didn't even know. Like, what? Like, totally. And they go to the like burger joint, and her one friend is like, "Well, you just have to make the right choices." And she gives Tommy that look. No, not Tommy. Yeah, Tommy. Tommy's coming into the restaurant, and he looks at her like, "Are we good? Did you broach the subject?" And she gives him a look and a nod. And then she's like, "Well, I've got like so much homework to do, like totally."
And then she pieces out.
Everyone
Right.
fucks off, and Tommy shows up, and he's disgusting and a piece of shit. And
But he got greenlit by the friend. So
right,
yeah.
So that was really weird to me because he doesn't. That we don't really see that interaction. It plays off screen, but they're definitely
There's the understanding that there was like, hey, you go in ahead.
yes, there was
You
some
lay
sort
down the
of
groundwork.
And I wrote, if it is Stacy, if it's not Stacy, I'm sorry, whoever you are, but I wrote down Stacy is a straight up cunt.
Yeah.
She's so shitty to her friend Julie. Like,
Well, all of her friends are kind of shitty to her. Like,
they're
it's
all,
that old trope of like, if you're dating the guy from across the tracks and other friends like him and they're trying to convince you
well,
to
they're all
be with a shitty
they're all a
person.
little shitty, but she's like weirdly conniving to like
fair
destroy
enough,
the
yeah.
relationship. We haven't actually talked
About Nicolas Cage?
at all.
Well, because it's one of those goofy things where
He's in about half of the movie.
he's in about half, and I just was sort of like meh about his whole time on screen.
Okay, so Nicolas Cage in this movie for me. Let me
Go
just
ahead.
arrange my notes. As the movie progresses and as his character kind of like ingratiates himself into Julie's life more and more, and we get more of a sense of who he is, I actually really like his character, and his character has kind of a weird arc. Like when we first he first takes her to that dive bar, and they're sitting there because when we've seen him in the house, there's this awesome line where he's convincing her to go out with him, and I wrote down Nicolas Cage is a bold motherfucker. He does not break eye contact, and he's like,
he doesn't.
He's like, "Let's get out of here. Let's just go." And she goes, "Where would we go?" And he goes, "I don't care." And she goes, "What would we do?" And he goes, "Anything." And those two lines, I literally believed him. For an 18-year-old actor,
Yep.
I really, really dug that. And then kisses her. Not even a good kiss, and that's what made it better.
Like
is
that
it's
awkward, yeah.
It's like that weird, like, I'm just fucking gonna kiss you, and he does, and then, which nowadays I know I'm not supposed to be for that, but he just goes for it, and she looks shocked, and then he like goes to the window, and he's like, "Hey, what's up?" And he pieces out, and she goes out to meet him, and they go to that dive bar, and in that dive bar, so all we've seen is him being like, "God, you're great. You're
Right, you're just
totally-
so
you're
beautiful.
just like so beyond. You're just the best." But when they get to that bar, she's like, "Oh, you think you're so different?" He's like, "Yeah, you're just like her. You're just like all your fucking friends." In that moment, I don't even think like nowadays they would call that negging, but I don't think it is.
No,
I
no.
think it's he recognizes in a way that she doesn't, that they're from the same city but from utterly
Other
different worlds. So I thought that's great writing, but I think he pulled it off too, because even while he's sitting there kind of critiquing her, like, "You're just like your friend, you know, like you're your nice clothes or whatever." And you know, they I think Nick Cage's friend asks like, "So what do you guys do?" And they're like, "You know, go to like regular parties and
Right.
get like clothes, like nice clothes." And Nick Cage goes, "Just like what we do." And then she's like, "Well, what makes you so different?" And then that's when he's like,
That's
"You're
when
just
he's like,
your
"You're just
friend."
like your friend,
But
right.
the whole time he's delivering those lines, he comes off as aggressive but never shitty. We hate Tommy immediately, but somehow Nicolas Cage, I think it's performance. I got to give him, and again, he's young in this
Yeah.
movie, but he's doing a good job there, because right after he like talks some shit, and she's like, well, how do you be free? He doesn't answer.
Right.
And that the whole rest of that, like, I think it's like 45 seconds before we're out of the scene, but the whole rest of that is just like him and her both her, to her credit too. The actor and actress are they like utilize distance.
Right.
Because they moving in. And then it's also the framing is amazing because in between the two of them is the guy up on stage singing
Playing
in the background. But
and the song is something about being worlds apart too.
I think it's like millennia apart or whatever.
Yeah.
And they tag the song back later after.
When he's by himself.
After he fucked that skank in the bathroom.
He rod.
However, I must say, Samantha is her name, by the way.
Nice.
The second she appeared on screen, I scribbled down, ooh, who's this trailer trash fox? That's how that's not even my fault. That's how they portray
her. Yeah.
But, God, Samantha, like, she comes out of nowhere like this like trashy siren. And you hate her, but you kind of like her too.
And he does her in a bathroom stall.
Yeah. What did you think of that scene, by the way?
It was dirty.
It wasn't as dirty as the bathroom for My Spit on Your Grave 2.
No.
Go and check out Patreon for all of those of you who...
No, but it was it was just such a sad moment. And I think that's why these movies never really set well with me, is because I was a late bloomer. Anyways. But...
Sexually?
Well, no, just like having a girlfriend in general. Like,
yeah.
In like high school, college, and didn't really ever work out for me. So like, there's a hopeless romantic sort of situation going on, and then it just feels gugh. Like that whole situation. Like I get it, but like Nick Cage doing Randy,
yeah. Randy doing Samantha in the
bathroom is sort of because he's so down and out about Julia. To get to that place, and it's just there's part of me with like it's too sad for me, for my brain,
right?
Like moments like that in movies where it's
become I don't know if it was before this, but it's become a trope in films like this where like, oh, we're so in love, oh, well, fuck you, I'm out of here, and I'm gonna go and we're gonna go sleep with other people, and it was a mistake, and then we come back, and it's usually the guy.
That's never really worked for me. Like it feels wrong to me personally.
I agree.
So when I see it and I'm like, and the fact that it's in a bathroom of a dive bar, there's a
filmmaking thing happening there that I was really intrigued by. I love the two shots in this movie. There are tons of two shots, which is, for those of you who don't know, it's basically when you have just two actors on screen and they are both in frame and they're talking to each other. It's not it's not the over the shoulder shot. It's where you just it's not a wide, but it's like a medium shot with two actors, and you just let them talk to each other. It's really naturalistic. The over the shoulder shots, when you see those, you know you're in a movie, but when you have just two people talking in profile, you're watching two actors. It's a really fly on the wall type thing, and it creates an intimacy that over the shoulder shots don't allow, because you don't get instantaneous reaction shots. Right. So the other thing I noticed in this movie that I loved is, what was the director's name?
Oh, I had it written.
Sorry, I know.
No, that's okay.
I wanted to just give credit because it's really interesting.
Martha Coolidge.
Martha Coolidge. There are a lot of scenes that go long. This movie could have...
There's an interesting reason for that.
Which is?
By the way, they had
listen to the director's commentary. So go ahead.
So they had like a $500,000 budget on this flick, and the entire production from like getting the script in her hands to release was like 6 months. So not a whole lot of time. She only shot 640.
Script to wrap was 6 months.
640,000 feet of film was all that was used on this project. So they had between 1 and 3 takes, like 3 maximum. So it was the first or second take in everything. So sometimes she would run a little bit long in the shots because they're like, if I cut, that's going to take time. But like if I stop the action,
right,
I have to go back, reset, and then we're on our second take. So she would rather like have things like play out.
Right.
So which informed a lot of these different scenes. And that because the budget was so small, they didn't have a whole lot of time. And most of the crew worked for like fucking free and like called in favors and shit. So it's almost like an independent, like MGM was the studio behind it, but it was almost done like an independent film.
It watches like one too.
It does, because sometimes it's a little too dark.
And it's, you mean the
Like
coloring or
No,
the
like
lighting?
like the lighting. Like anytime they're in their car and they're out in the valley or they're up on like Mulholland.
I loved that.
But
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
perfect.
yeah.
But it works.
It works. This
Right?
is-
Because you have the valley below them. It's romantic in a way. You kind of feel like you're on Makeout Hill and
The
like
bar scenes are so dark because it's red lighting,
Mm-hmm.
and the lighting is so low that it's really hard to make stuff out, but it works because it creates such a crazy jarring contrast to the bright life in the hills that we've just seen.
they had $3,000 total for all set dressing in this movie.
$3,000 was their
$500 of which they used at the prom scene.
wow.
Yeah.
So this movie, there's a certain type of film about this time period or made in this time period, which is like the teenage movie set in a high school,
Right.
and they all have a certain look and feel, and this one
Doesn't.
does not quite have that.
This is dark, gritty, and it's a lot of it's because of how fast they had to do it, how many takes they had, and they didn't have that John Hughes budget.
We're gonna later in the we're in the main series. I get confused sometimes. Later in this year, we're going to cover a director who utilizes that technique of letting things run and letting things.
Is that Jarmusch or
No, we're gonna cover Steve McQueen.
Oh, right.
Not the actor Steve
No, the
McQueen,
director, like 7
Steve
Years
McQueen.
a Slave.
12 Years a Slave. 7 Years a Slave is the prequel.
Right. The trial run.
Right. They were testing out to see how long they could make someone a slave. They're like, 7 years we can pull off. Let's try.
We can do fucking 12.
You're crazy, Bill. You'll never manage it. But yeah, he does 12 Years a Slave. He does Shame. He does Hunger. And this movie we'll see this later. He takes it to extremes, but in this film, you get like to the end of a scene and you're like, okay, we're done now. But then like physical acting starts happening and you're like, oh, are we still here? Okay, what's going on now? And
it's like when he says goodnight to her at her house, she closes the door and he sort of silhouette dances away from the door awkwardly.
Right.
And it keeps going for a little bit longer than you expect it to go.
Yeah, because he's like skipping left and right.
Yep.
The scene I'm thinking of is the sex in the bathroom. They get in the bathroom and they're like making out, and now we're expecting like cut to black, which eventually does happen. But okay, the jacket's off and now he's undressing her and we're like, oh, how okay. And then they move along and they go behind a stall, and then two girls come in.
Yeah, that's right. Like so tee and then they.
So like, I'm not saying like there's some like deep metaphorical thing that they're going for here, but I'm saying it gives a verisimilitude.
Right.
To that scene, it rather than watching a movie, it feels like life. Because if you're fucking in a bathroom in a crowded bar, people are
gonna walk in. Right.
So it's like the movie trope of like we have sex and our hair is perfect and no one disturbs us in the park. No, in this one, Nick, they get to a stall like barely in time, and two
they're
girls
squeezed into it too. I mean, it's like not very attractive.
No, and there's a weird seedy feel to it where you get the sense that the two girls who are in the bathroom know that people are fucking, how could they not, and don't care.
Don't give a shit.
And you're like, wow, this is a huge step down from where Randy was. Just like,
that's the Viper Room.
The Viper Room?
Yeah, where they shot that. It's not called the Viper Room. It's where River Phoenix died.
Really?
Yeah.
That bar? Wow.
Yeah.
This movie is soaked in like Hollywood.
I have so much trivia on this movie right now. Not so much Nick Cage performance because, like I said, I couldn't do it.
Now,
I couldn't do it.
Okay, good Nick Cage performance moment. I didn't really have any real complaints. I thought some of his really early stuff in the movie, like the first couple scenes when we're first introduced to him, I thought some of that was a little flat.
Sure.
Because he's doing the California stoner thing where he's like, I'm a surfer, man. And he does deliver some lines flat, but he really livens up. after he gets Julie out of the party.
Like when he first meets her parents at the health food restaurant, like
It's an awesome scene.
It's like, it's Nick Cage. And I love her parents too, by the way, for their shirts.
Yeah.
And where they health food something or other. Like they own a health food restaurant, not even like a store. It's a restaurant. It's like healthy food. Which is so funny.
Nice dad Steve and Sarah. His wife's name is Sarah.
Oh my God.
I love that they are some of the most compelling characters here because they're both like faded hippies. They're like former hippies.
Yeah, well, the dad's smoking a joint waiting for his daughter to get home from the party in the first act. Like
in the Oh yeah.
And he also smokes a joint in the bathroom later too.
That's the one I remember.
And then leaves the lens cap on.
Leaves the lens cap on the camera. But that scene right there. That's a great example of that weird indie feel. Because let's go and he smokes a joint. He comes down. There's the funny gag with the pictures, and then Julie and Tommy leave to go to the prom, and Sarah, his wife, is immediately like, let's go watch, and they run over to the window,
right?
And they're watching at the window, and Sarah's got her arm on him, and then they ostensibly drive off.
Yep, they have a moment. They
close the blinds. And that should be the end, right? But it's not.
It keeps going.
Then he's like, "Oh yeah," and she starts like doing this weird thing where she she
like
hugs
shaking him in
but
a
then
weird
she starts
sort of way,
like kind of like shaking him, like, and it feels, knowing what you just told me, it feels like the actors maybe didn't know what to do.
It's kind of awkward, right? Like,
right? They're like, no one's calling cut, so I guess just keep going, because she literally shakes him, and he goes. He has an awesome line. He goes, "It's not Bangkok. I don't need a massage."
Right.
And she goes, "Geez." And then, like, it's weirdly in character again.
Yes.
Now. And then she goes, "Hey, you got any more of that stuff for me?" And he goes, "Yeah, well, sure. And they go off to smoke pot, and that never would have existed if they hadn't.
It's a very real moment between the two of them,
and it creates that. It captures being high really well, that where you get lost in your own head, especially if you're moving a little bit, you get in like kind of a trance, and then if you're startled out of it, you can be a little brusque,
right?
So it's weird. Like Steve gets that, like, well, I'm not in Bangkok, I don't need a what are you doing to me, woman? He gets like weird, like weed brusque, and then
weed brusque,
perfectly in character when she's like, "You got any more of that stuff?"
Well, yeah.
If you're smoking and someone's like, "Hey, you want to go split some?" You'd be like, "Sure."
Yeah, sweet,
man.
dude.
It mellowed him right back out. It's totally like slice of life.
I almost thought he was Sonny Bono at first.
Just because of his look?
Because of how he looked. I'm like, is that Sonny? No, it's not. He
has some of the best lines in this movie. Actually, just her parents in general, because they're so like, we're just letting you grow.
They
and
are
experience.
like they're like the Keatons in Family Ties.
I've never seen Family Ties.
What?
I know, but this is not a Family Ties episode.
No, but they're very much like the Keatons, in that the Keatons were ex-hippies.
Okay.
Who are just really cool parents.
Okay, well that's
in the early 80s. Like
literal,
the same,
so this is exactly what they are.
They are the Keatons, yes.
When Julie comes home from the party and we walk into the room and her dad is smoking on the couch and her mom is doing like inverted yoga. And she pauses with her legs fully spread. I wrote down, damn, Julie got home at like 8 a.m. for starters.
Right.
Because they're out all night and it's like night. And when he pulls up to the house, I'm like, it's day.
It's daytime. She's so fucking screwed.
She's crazy late. So she walks in and I'm like, her mom's vagina yoga is something else.
I thought the same.
I didn't know what to think, because like part of it is like, Jesus, that your mom's doing yoga, that's so gross, but at the same time Julie's mom's kind of hot. So I'm like, I don't know how I feel about
and she holds that pose for a hot minute too.
And when Julie comes in, she like is mid spread, and then she's like lecturing her daughter upside down with her legs spread, and you're like, could you just stand up or close your legs or don't? I don't know. It's perfect though, because I think that's what they're going for.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And in that same scene, Nice Dad Steve has my favorite fucking line ever, which they're like kind of like, look, we're not mad at you. We just want you to be careful, blah, blah, blah. And Steve goes, you know, Julie, we were young once. Your mother still is. He throws that out, just like that.
I love that.
That like covering your
Like
bases.
covering your shit. Your mom, she still is.
That's such
honey.
a husband
Yeah.
thing to do, where you're like, you know, your mother and I were young, and then you realize you're like, shit, I just said that. And then
My wife is old.
And you know, but your mom still is. I'm old, but your mom, she's a 10 out of 10. You know, like you
Right.
just see him like backtrack for a second, and
love
then he
that.
gets stay on target, and he gets right back in. I love Steve, and yet again, hard to talk about Nicolas Cage because everyone else is doing more than he is.
More than he is. But I think that's fair enough. It's so not actors like Nicolas Cage don't start off as Nick Cage. You aren't born in
Nicolas Cage,
Face Off, right?
right?
You have a natural progression. And what I feel kind of bad that I couldn't make it through this movie for many different reasons. It's not my bag. It was tiring. His performance it was lackluster. But it's also sort of interesting to see his genesis, like where he came from, and seeing those little sparks of what he eventually would be in his heyday, like the Stanley Goodspeed and the dude from Face Off, and like
There's
Con Air, like when
my favorite moments of his in this movie are when the script gives him strange lines,
right.
and he manages them. Because the dialogue is actually pretty good. Like as far as this movie goes, I know it's not in your bag, but from this type
From a
of
screenwriting standpoint, no, there's absolutely nothing wrong with the dialogue.
right, it's pretty sharp and fun. The Valley Girl stuff is
a little forced in.
well, and also it's grating, but it's grating because it's
Valley.
that Valley
Right.
thing, and it's like hearing someone
And they
say like
intentionally
"barf
started-
me out."
And they intentionally started it more heavy to let you know where you are, and then
Right.
backed it off.
right, yeah, because that first scene
That
with
first
the four of
scene,
them at the table,
when in
is
the
just-
Galleria, and it's just like
You're just like,
obnoxious.
your
Please
head is
don't let this be the whole movie.
pounding, yeah.
But then they
pump the
ease
brakes
up
a
off
little.
the gas on that. Yeah. But no, I think the script, the writing, the words that people have to say, it's clever. It's fun. It's just overall the story is a mediocre retelling of.
fell a little flat for you.
Yeah, it just did. It's
some lines. I wrote down a bunch of Cage's lines. But
go for it.
There's one where when they're driving down the strip, there's like 3 from this sequence, but when he's driving down the strip and he just was yelling at like Enrique as they walked past or whatever, he says shit. He says the word shit. I don't even know if I can replicate it with my own voice, but because he'll say a line and then be like, ah, and he'll like scream or whatever. He says shit after this line where he's like, Enrique, you didn't do that, man. And then he turns back to the road and he goes, shit. It's like his voice, like shit or something.
Like
I don't
his
know. I
tremoling
don't
or
know what he
something,
does. I can't figure it out. I've been trying to do it since I saw it and I cannot replicate it.
I'm gonna have to watch this.
It's
scene
like
again
it's like he's like vibratoing the I in shit, like a machine.
now.
It's
Okay,
like a
no, I remember that
perfect-
now. Yeah,
It's bizarre to hear, and I was like,
it's like a
yes,
weird.
yes, yes. It's exactly like that. It's so fucking weird. I saw it and I was like, Jesus, what was that?
What was that, Nick Cage?
And then when they pull up to the club, and the girl's like, she's like, I'm not getting out of this car because they're in a bad part of town.
Right.
And Nick Cage goes, all right, that's fine, but when they attack the car, save the radio.
Save the radio.
There's just like, they give him these little like snarky, like like not shitty, but like weird lines to deliver. There's a great one later when he's puking in the alley, and he's just like yelling.
That's a good scene when his buddy kind
Yeah.
of rallies him a little bit.
You know what the best part of that scene is? Is there's no monologue. There's no like, listen, man, we've been through some stuff, but now I'm going
None
to
of
tell
that.
you. No, it's so fucking real. His buddy's like just kind of trying to joke around with him because he sees that his friend is hurting and he doesn't know exactly what to do. So they're sitting there, and then there's a bit where like Nick Cage starts the conversation by saying, fuck you too.
Right.
And leave me alone. And his friend's like, no, man, come on. Like, hey, you got to be wild and goofy. And then Nick Cage at one point, because he's super drunk and he's puking his guts out, he goes, give me that brick. I'm dying. Put me out of my misery. But the way that he says it, because I say it and I'm joking, but the way that he says it,
it's like, oh, you might actually want to die right now.
Yeah, I'm like there. You literally believe like at least part of Nick Cage doesn't care if he lives or dies, and it's weird. It's not weird. It's upsetting to see for a second where you're like, oh shit.
I have a fun bit of trivia about that scene as well.
Yeah.
I should watch commentary on these things more often.
You should.
But I could be like the research. But anyway, so that scene was unseasonably cold in the valley that night when they shot that scene. And it was so cold that the actors were having a hard time acting. Because when it's super cold, your brain goes.
Right.
And it's hard to do anything physical because you're shaking. So they had like one of the producers' cars parked right off of camera with the heat on. So in between takes, they would have to go in and like warm up for a hot second.
Oh my God.
And then put ice cubes in their mouth.
So there would be
there wouldn't be any steam coming up. But you can see it. I went back and looked again. There is coming out of Nick Cage's mouth during that scene. You can see the cold coming out of his mouth.
So, two related things really quick. One, like 4 years ago, I wrote and directed and shot a horror film in the Upper Peninsula. And we happened to, it's set in the wintertime. It was cabin, they get snowed in, that sort of thing. It happened to be the coldest winter in like 50 years when we shot it. There's a scene where the protagonist wakes up outside. He's hallucinating, and he in the previous scene was dressed in just a white dress shirt, jeans, and that's it. And he wakes up and he's outside in a sawmill where the walls have all fallen down. I found a super cool location, but it's totally exposed to the elements. And his boss is standing there in a suit talking to him. So we shot that scene. I play the protagonist. I'm in my dress shirt. My buddy Adam Lau plays my boss. He's in a suit. And we get to location and we started shooting it, and that day before wind chill was negative 35 degrees. Balls. So we would shoot the scene. You can actually before you leave, I'll show it to you. But you can see like my skin start to go like red
like
and
you're
then
going,
white.
Oh shit!
Because you're like and so what we did was we left my Subaru running on the road, and then when I call action, we'd turn the car off so it didn't get in the audio.
Oh my God.
So we'd do the scene really quick, and then I'd be like, Adam, can you do another one? He's like, no. And we'd run to the car, and we'd sit in the car till we were warm, and then we'd run back out and do it again.
That's amazing.
Had to do the same thing at one of our last shoots. We were heading into spring. I was waiting for the temperature to come up a little bit. There's a scene where a character is basically crucified by being chained to a metal pipe that's suspended from the ceiling, and they're totally naked. So I'm like, I'm not gonna have people do total nude scenes in super brutal cold. And then the day that I had scheduled for it happened to be another day where the temperature hit like negative 20 something.
Of course.
Yeah. So that was fucked up. But yeah. So I actually have some personal experience with this, but also there's a film, a real legitimate film made by legitimate people. Lords of Salem, Rob Zombie's movie.
Yes.
You remember? Have you ever seen it?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Remember the scene where all the old women are dancing around the fire and they're like, Satan, Satan. Yep. That they shot in. They only had like one day to shoot, and it was so cold where they were shooting that Rob Zombie actually can't shut the scene down halfway through because he realized that one of the actresses couldn't remember the word Satan.
Oh, that's fucking
That was
cool.
like her only line.
Oh, but she could
he was like, he would check in. He'd be like, all right, okay, we're going to change some camera angles. And he's like, run your line for me. And all it was Satan. And she couldn't remember it. And he's like, all right, we're done. Because they're naked. They're naked and dancing.
Right.
But it didn't matter because the cold was so fucking cold
bad she
that
couldn't
their
even
bodies
remember
were like
that.
shutting down. He's like, we're done. Everyone,
can't even do dialogue.
Nope.
Yeah.
Not even dialogue. The
One word.
Satan.
Right.
He's like getting everybody to the trailers and cars.
We are done.
Doctors. Let's get doctors. Like, it's just
Doctor. I don't think it was that cold in the valley.
no, but I
Cold enough to make your breath go.
I'm glad you. I'm collecting cold movie shooting.
Yeah,
stories.
I love it.
I mean, Nick Cage. I just want to jump forward to because you mentioned it at the beginning, and because it's a Nick Cage appreciation podcast, and we both agree. I think this is where he shines the most. The montage of him trying to win her back.
I love it. That's the best part of the movie.
That absolute best part of the movie. The music there.
It's all perfect.
The soundtrack is great all the way through,
yeah.
but that scene is so well queued up and cut. When he's
sucking on that cigarette in front of the fucking movie theater.
Yeah, when he's taking their tickets, and she recognizes him, but he's got his 3D glasses on. Disguise so that Tommy, who's a fucking idiot, doesn't. It's literally the Clark Kent thing. He puts glasses on, and they don't know who he is. Right. But Tommy's like, "Bitchin', is this in 3D?" And Nick Cage goes. Nick Cage goes, "No, but your face is."
And then lights his cigarette.
Hand motion when he says it, because he's like still kind of looking over at Julie, and he's like, "Bitch, is this in 3D?" And he turns to him and he puts his fingers in his face, like points, and he's got the cigarette.
Yeah.
He points the cigarette in his face and goes, "No, but your face is." And then he takes a big drag off his cigarette and just rips his ticket, and that's it. The whole moving on. And then the last friend who comes through, he's like, he gives the ticket to Nick Cage, and Nick Cage goes, "Enjoy your flight," and walks away.
Right.
It's just so fucking weird, man. And as normally, like later Cage might have been like, "No, but your face is."
Right, yeah.
Weird.
But this was more
as straight as he plays that. There were several times in this movie. I know you said you didn't laugh out loud. I was literally like pausing the movie and just like.
I wish I could have gotten there. I mean, I own the movie now. Maybe I'll go back and watch it again. I feel like I just don't pick the right time of day to watch movies anymore.
There's when, you just, or like you sit down with like your Carl Jung glasses and a pipe on, and you're like, all right, it's time to consider Valley Girl.
Yes.
Yeah, the cinema. There's like another moment that like literally broke me is when the dad, Dad Steve, when he's waiting for Tommy to show up, and he's like freaking the fuck out, and he's sweating, and he sees Tommy roll up, and Tommy gets out, and he's like all fly, and he's got his limo car thing,
right?
And he's like, "Boy, that boy doesn't miss a trick. Sarah, you gotta come and see this, Sarah." And Sarah comes over, and she's looking through the window.
What?
And she's like, "What?" He's like, feel these hands. These hands are wet." And Julie comes in, and he's like, "Oh, darling, you look beautiful." Oh, and he goes and runs away to go smoke a joint. And Julie's like, "What's up with Dad?" And the mom says, "I think your father just faced his mortality." That's literally her line. The writing in this movie sneaks up on you.
Yeah.
It's not like one of those movies. It's not like a Rodney Dangerfield.
Right.
Like,
it's not Back to School. It's not Caddyshack. It's not any of that.
Fast Times at Ridgemont High. It doesn't have that like every single zinger.
And maybe that's what I wasn't at the beginning of this podcast. I said that I think broad comedies aren't my bag. This is not a broad comedy. Mm-mm. This is not Caddyshack. This isn't Porky's. This isn't Police Academy. I think maybe I was expecting that, which is why
something a bit more slapstick, a bit gregarious. But the movie.
There's more honesty to it.
It does. It's got the heart of a John Hughes movie with a Kevin Smith sensibility.
Yeah,
it really does.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I love about it is there are like shit like "give me a brick" or like "your father just faced his own mortality" or like lines like that. There is sharp writing in here, but it's not. It doesn't make itself known. It just sneaks up on you, and then you're like, it's like blam. Mom said something funny, and you're like, oh shit!
It's like sniper writing.
Yeah, and it's really.
It's just perched on the top of a hill, waiting for its moment, and then.
And then the bland writing occasionally shines because of where it's placed. Like, "No, but your face is so fucking funny because of the absurdity of the situation.
Everything that's going on around it. Yeah.
Yeah, and like okay, so a guy, like, how do you set up a guy spits his gum on somebody?
Well, that was an accident.
The gum spitting out on the
Yeah.
guy? Really?
I know that because I watched the commentary.
Oh my god. Okay, well
That wasn't meant to happen.
they play it off so
yeah.
well.
Yeah, that's why she's laughing so hard in the car.
It's because he did it for
It's
real.
because he did it for real. I was like, oh, I'm so very sorry about that. Let me
And he
get
just
that for you.
went
He just
with
went
it.
with it. Yeah.
Have you ever seen? Speaking of gum coming out of people's mouths, have you ever seen the Between Two Ferns with Brad Pitt?
Not the Brad Pitt one. No.
Okay, there's one with Brad Pitt and what's that act? Zach Galifianakis. There's a bit where Zach Galifianakis, where Brad Pitt's chewing gum, and Zach Galifianakis is like, "Really, you're just gonna chew gum on my show?" And Brad Pitt, without missing a beat, just spits it on the table.
Oh my god.
And Zach Galifianakis picks it up and puts it in his mouth and starts chewing it. And Brad Pitt goes, "That was my last piece." And Zach Galifianakis spits it back out, and Brad Pitt puts it back in his mouth.
Genius.
It is
Oh my God.
spectacular. The timing and the blasé way
Right.
with which they do it is primo. And because you can't spit gum very accurately, you know that that was just totally off the cuff.
Yep.
And neither of them broke. And you're like, that's why you guys make so much money.
Exactly.
As much of a pretty boy reputation as he has, Brad Pitt does have acting ability.
I love Brad Pitt.
Thank you.
Holy shit. That's a conversation for another time.
It is. There's. Can I just? Do you have more trivia that you want to hit?
Did I just close my notebook?
You did. I have a
hit
few more.
all of the.
Most of mine are lines. I just want to say lines that.
Just
Wait.
say them.
Okay. When they're at the prom at the end, and that girl walks up to the table and she's like, "Where are the cups?" And it's like, I don't know cups.
cups?
I wrote down cups, because that's what they're saying.
Right.
And then there's that guy at the head. They go around and they get to that guy at the head of the table, and he has the best fucking line ever. He goes, "Cups? I haven't seen cups all day." Or cups all evening.
Cups all evening.
He says, "Cups? I haven't seen cups all evening." It's like a cop just came up and they're like, "So have you seen Jim around?" And he's like, "No, Jim. Jim? Who's
seen
Jim?
Jim all day."
That's not even a real name." You know?
Oh, I do. So my last bit of trivia.
Okay.
We talked. I don't know if it was in season 0 or in this our first season, where we talked about you can tell when you've had an executive producer now.
That's this
right?
season. That's this season. I think it's like 2 or 3 episodes ago.
So just before she started shooting this film, Coolidge, I think is her name. I want to get that right. The director, yes, Coolidge.
Yeah.
She got a note from one of the executive producers, or from a couple of them, that they're very excited to have her on the project, and that the script is fantastic, and they like the cast and everything, but we have a note for you. We need you to have no fewer than 4 breast shots in the film. And she's like, "Pardon me?"
Interesting.
And so you can count them. There are 4.
I know. I actually noted that there were 4.
There are 4. I mean, it's because that was
I thought it was a bit much.
That was the required amount that she had to show in the film. And when she asked why 4? She's like, "We just feel that is the appropriate amount for the male audience that we are trying to reach in this film." And so she did.
It's we're gonna do a whole month of exploitation films this year, and I am we're not doing any of this particular subgenre of exploitation films, but I'm a huge fan of like teenage/high school, like drive-in high school.
Oh, absolutely.
Exploitation films. There's a great one. Oh god damn it! I just watched it. It has car chicken in it. It's fucking great. Pom Pom Girls. If you haven't seen Pom Pom Girls, it's a great example of exactly this type of movie.
Right.
And one of the things that happens in every single one of those movies is, "Hey Johnny, how's it going?" "It's going pretty good." Like, "Susan, how are you doing?" Your shirt's open and your tits are out.
Right.
And it just, boom, now you've got breasts, and they usually stay out for a long time.
Right.
And it's literally just like to push that lascivious button.
It's that eye candy, and it's like,
Exactly.
"Oh, this is going to sell tickets."
That's an exploitation element for sure. And seeing
And that was a note that the director got from the...
it when it got to like 4. When I saw it for the 4th time in the movie, I was like, "This." I wrote down a preponderance of breasts. But I
Right.
was like, "That seems like a bit much." But when I saw
Considering the film and what it just seemed
when I
out
saw
of
the
place.
first 2,
Because it's not Porky's and it's not Police Academy.
no, but when I saw the first 2, I liked that touch because I was
It
like,
made sense with Dottie. Not Dottie, but it
yeah,
made sense with...
Lauren. It made sense with Lauren and with Dottie. Wow, your inner child was just like, "Don't you dare take Dottie's breasts from me."
Right.
But I thought it made sense for the first two times because I thought because the movie does
made
have
sense
that
with
exploitation
right,
feel.
yeah.
You've got that like greaser character,
And it
wrong
made
side
sense
of
with
the
what
tracks.
was happening too.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. So I was like, okay, you got it. Like it's a little like touch of exploitation. Also, this is an R-rated film, lots
Yep.
of F words and teen drinking and drug use. So we're in a more adult world. But when I got to 4, I was like, why are we doing this again?
This is excessive. Yeah.
There are a couple things I have to hit because I will freak out if I don't cover them.
Do it.
Speaking of Lauren and that scene where we see her breasts, the reason when you said like it ends innocently earlier, there's a bit at the end where she's like, "This is me, we're going steady." He's like, "No," and he comes around and he moves around her and sits down next to her to. I think to create a more powerful position for him to sit in because he really looms over her where he was like laying.
He was
under
laying
a
next
second.
to her,
Yeah.
under her. Yeah.
So he goes, no, that's not what this means. I think this means that maybe you're a lousy friend to fool around with your friend's boyfriend while he's in a bad way or something like that.
Yeah, it makes
right?
her out to be. Yeah.
And then he gets up and he pulls his shirt on and there's like this look of like scorn and disgust on his
Yeah.
face. And he walks out and closes the door. And as he's closing the door, she says, "Get out," so quietly.
I missed
broke
that.
my
Shit.
heart. Literally, it's if you weren't like watching closely, you'd miss it. But I swear to you, she's sitting there and she's trying to cover herself.
yeah.
She's not even dressing. She's just trying to cover up, and he's already gone. Like the door is
And she
closed.
like whispers, "Get
She
out."
goes, "Get out."
Oh my god.
It fucks you up, dude. It's a really, really like her character for the most part is like the peak Valley girl,
Right, yeah.
But in that moment, man, and especially not to like to get out, you bastard, or
Right, but just like a get
some
out.
big line reading. It's just for her to say it to like try and cling to some sort of control of herself. I know it's really, really it's beautiful. It's heartbreaking,
Right,
but it's
but
beautiful and a really, really good performance. There was I really enjoyed that. On a funnier note, I liked the driving scene where Julie's learning to drive.
Oh, and the instructor jumps out of the car.
The instructor jumps out of the car
Fail.
when he's screaming at her. He's like, "You can't drive through there!" And they cut to her and the cut back, and they keep talking to each other. There's 3 girls in the back,
Right.
and they're all acting
Then
like
you realize
nothing's happening.
The
and
instructor is no longer.
there's nobody in the passenger seat anymore. But what I really loved about that movie, or not that movie, but that part of the movie is. There's a thing that a lot of movies do, which is it's easier to just shoot the shell of a car with green screen running in the background. Back then, it wasn't green screen. They would literally like
They would they would run the footage behind
they'd
them,
run
right?
footage behind them. Nowadays, they do it green screen, or they'll just put the car on a trailer.
Right.
But I love the fucking back matter. I love the footage that they're showing because it literally looks while she's driving. It looks like she's driving in a
big
circle
Yeah.
for like 50 seconds.
Yeah.
It's like Julie's just doing donuts.
She's doing
in the
donuts
parking
in the
lot.
parking lot of the high
The
school.
most hilarious part of that scene was watching the stuff in the background. You're like, the scenery is just going in a circle again and again and again, and the instructor's losing his mind. There's a fun bit part.
Yeah.
That instructor, he's only in like 2 minutes of the movie, but really,
Fail.
really primo. And shit, there was one more, but what was it? I tried to mark it and I didn't. Oh, yes, we have to cover this. We absolutely have to address this. At the prom, there is a song called "Johnny, Are You Queer?"
Yes.
Do you have trivia for it?
I don't.
That is a bit troubling.
Yeah.
That song does not age well.
It doesn't. I noticed it.
Yeah.
It was not mentioned in the commentary, and I meant to look that up.
Right. On the
Because
whole,
it struck me as like, oh shit.
well, at first I thought like, okay, this is the 80s. Maybe this is the old sense
The
of
old
queer,
sense
as in
of-
weird.
Nope.
No, the backup dancers make it very obvious.
Yeah.
When they sing the chorus, "Johnny, Are You Queer?" they're flopping their wrists down. You can tell lyrically that that's what they're talking about. The song seems to be suggesting like, oh, why aren't you into me? Are you gay?
Right. No,
And-
that's exactly what the song is.
And they play
Yeah.
that whole song. That song plays for like 4 minutes of the movie. It's a big part of the prom sequence. a lot of this movie ages well because it has nostalgia factor. It feels John Hughesy. It
Right.
feels weirdly current in some ways because it's got that like rougher around the edges
Right, yeah.
thing. That part, not
It was
so-
jarring, actually.
Yeah, it's a shame too because that's when the food fight is happening. That's
Right.
when their big escape happens. So it's like it's literally like minutes before the end of the film.
Before The Graduate happens.
Yeah. So once we ride off into the sunset into The Graduate, like right before that, you're left with this really weird.
And we have had the most amazing nostalgic, well, not nostalgic at the time, but current modern amazing 83 soundtrack
yeah, the soundtrack
up
is
until that
spot
point,
on,
and then it's
we
like
hit-
throw that in. It's like,
I mean, I know it's the sensibility for the time. Bird and I just watched Dude, Where's My Car not too long ago. That was made in 2000, and they sling a lot of like
like the
faggot and
yeah,
gay jokes
that's
are
right,
all over
yeah.
that. So even like in 2000, that type of humor was still there. So we live in I think it's one of those weird like cultural
Yeah,
disconnect.
it's almost generational at this
that's what
point.
that's what I
yeah.
meant. Rather than cultural,
But it is cultural too, though, because we have changed
as
for
a
the
culture.
better.
Right. More, but yeah. So like in '83, that was still
As far as that's concerned,
yeah. But in '83, that was still like
it was acceptable,
and it was back in '83. That was probably funny,
right?
You know, like this is with this in the backdrop and all this like
Right.
machismo. They're fighting over a girl and
Right.
So yeah, watching that, I was like, ooh, I don't know about that. However, that backstage kung fu.
Oh my
is
God, the backstage
on
kung fu.
point. Oh my God, when that dude does that high kick, I was like,
Holy shit.
He got his leg up by Nick Cage's head, and then he does that like big like.
He Danny whatever his name is karate kidded him.
Karate kidded it. Yeah. He definitely does. He goes full grasshopper, man. It's great. I love the backstage kung fu and the principal. The principal is my favorite like throwaway character in this. You're king and you're queen. I remember my prom. I wanted to be queen. I wasn't. She's just like she's so sad.
Yes.
And then she's like, yeah, they need no introduction because they are not the king and queen of blah, 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 hi. They are blah, 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 hi. Like, her delivery is so,
Yes.
like, Principal, who was a theater kid back in the day.
And as being the most dramatic.
Oh, she's killing she had, like...
Hi, would be.
She had like the horse binder, the horse notebook, the horse backpack. That's this girl.
That's this girl.
And then they open the curtains and Nick Cage is beating the fuck out of Tommy. And she faints. I wrote down best movie faint of all time.
Oh, she swoons it.
She swoons like classic Greek. She puts her speech above her head and turns around opposite the direction that her speech came up. She like reverse corkscrews with her hand above her head. I'm like, that is perfect. It's such a good way to go out. I got nothing else for Valley Girl. This and Drive Angry, you
Yeah.
and me, we should just like when we're way ahead and we don't have to worry about doing these
Kind of
podcasts.
just watch these with some people or something. Or
We should get drunk and grab a bunch of friends and
watch
spin these flicks.
I think that'd be fantastic. Yes.
So yeah, I was a big fan. I'm hoping that I can convert you sometime.
Absolutely. Like I said, I didn't hate it, just not in my wheelhouse.
Gotcha.
So.
Right. And I'm glad that you didn't even really have anything negative to say about
Yeah,
it. You
not at all.
recognize.
Oh, yeah,
you're
absolutely.
Like, yeah, it's a good movie. It's just not my movie.
Right.
Okay. Next week, I believe we are both Slavish
Oh,
fans.
firmly.
Okay, we're
in the same wheelhouse on
good,
next
good.
week's movie.
Yes!
I'm so excited. I've intentionally held up. I've owned this Blu-ray since last year. I bought a Coen Brothers collection.
right.
And when I found out when we were talking like almost 7 months ago now about this podcast, and we picked
when Measuring Flicks was born.
when we first picked Raising Arizona, I took it off the gonna watch it this week shelf and like we're gonna hold off on that.
Watch it fresh.
Watch it fresh. I've been waiting. I have been waiting to watch Raising Arizona. I'm so fucking ready, dude.
I think Raising Arizona.
It's the best. Fargo is the best. I think. Well, who knows?
Coen Brothers movie?
Coen Brothers movie.
Okay. I'm going to go with Raising Arizona because that was the
Okay.
first one that I saw. And also, we can argue it to next week, but I legitimately think that Raising Arizona is the best Coen Brothers movie.
Fantastic. I can't wait to watch it, and I can't wait to talk about it.
It's by far my favorite Nick Cage movie.
Con air, con shit. Just kidding.
Yeah, so next week we are going to be doing Raising Arizona. And
would we like to shout out our patrons at this moment?
Definitely we want to do that.
To do.
First, we should probably tell people what patrons are.
Oh, on the Patreon website.
Correct. We are a listener-supported podcast. I can actually say that now because we are legitimately listener-supported.
I love it.
Fuck yes! We are a listener-supported podcast. The main show will always be on iTunes every week for free.
Yes.
You will always have us here. We will always be talking about movies and playing clips that we don't have the licensing rights to and screaming into the microphones. So aren't you guys lucky? But we're also trying to keep the lights on in this place and keep those podcasts hosted. It's not free to host and distribute podcasts. It's not a ton of money, but it's chunk.
Enough.
It's a chunk of change, yeah. So if you like what we do and think that we deserve a buck or two a reno, you can head over to patreon.com. That's patreon.com/Max Peterson. We have several tiers of pledges and lots of fun, cool Measuring Flicks podcasty rewards. You can get shout-outs on the show, which we're actually just about to do.
Absolutely.
You can get access to our awesome Season 0, which Carl referenced.
I've been listening to like a little bit. It's
They're
like
good,
pretty
man.
good episodes.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. I mean,
honestly,
biased, but
Bronson, Prisoners, Frank, and Inglorious Bastards are my favorite episodes from
I would
Season
agree with
0.
that.
So we covered a bunch of films in season. We did seven episodes for a kind of an abortive first attempt at this show, and I put them all up on Patreon. That's the $3 tier. You can get access to Season 0. We're also doing Patreon exclusive episodes. So we're going to try and do them in series of 4, kind of like we're doing with our main...
We're releasing them all in one package, too, once they're... Right.
So the Patreon episodes are very bingeable. You're going to get usually going to be a sequence of movies or one director.
Trying to like four chunks.
Four-ish,
four movies,
yeah.
right?
So
Ish.
you'll get a big block of 4 episodes. You just burn right through them. We're almost done with our first one, which is the I Spit on Your Grave series of films. Honestly, it's been way
I'm having a blast, actually.
It's been way more brutal than I was expecting.
Oh, yeah.
But also more fun.
The conversations are fantastic.
Yeah,
I was having so much fun talking about these movies.
So we're doing that. Our next series coming up, I think in June, is going to be the Guillermo del Toro's films.
Yeah.
So you can head over to Patreon and check it out over there. There's lots of cool stuff. Click around. Let's shout out our patrons.
Shall we? You start.
I will. This show is supported by 2 of my very dear friends, John Scheibe and Casey Scheibe. Shout out to my 2 friends in NYC. They're actually the reason that Bird and I moved to Maine.
Amazing.
To be slightly closer to them, and also because fresh out of college, they just moved to New York. People don't fucking do that because New York rent is $62,000 a month, something like that.
Yes.
For for
a closet,
right? Closet, yeah. So they went and did it, and they've been there for like 5 years. They're making it. It's amazing. And they're truly amazing people, and they've always been really supportive of all of the cool stuff we do at Quill and Film Productions. QuillandFilmProductions.com. You can go and check out film work and stuff.
The umbrella for many projects. That you will still see coming as
the
well.
catch-all production company for the artistic endeavors. Also,
and a shout out to another patron, Connor Sweeney, a new friend of mine that I met on the production of Midsummer Night's Dream. We were in together over the course of the last couple months. So thank you very much, Connor, for your support, and I hope you're continuing to enjoy these podcasts as much as we're enjoying putting them up for you.
You know, I saw a blurb in the newspaper the other day about Connor. It's Connor Sweeney, right? Yeah. Connor Sweeney pulled 3 kittens and an orphan child out of a burning school bus the other day. His clothes were completely burned off in the fire. But
it was during an April storm.
It was during an April storm, raging flames. He saved these kittens, which all immediately went to good homes, handed the orphan back to its step parents.
Yes.
Right. And there were some photographs, and I gotta say that his physique is Herculean.
It is.
It's incredible.
Statuesque.
Yes, statuesque. It's a bit of an I believe that
An Adonis?
the headline was Adonis Among Us. And I was like, that's nice and alliterative.
Save us the kittiest.
Save us the kittiest. Right. The kittiest?
Thank you, Connor.
Thank you, Connor. My favorite part of these shout-outs is making up shit about
I'm making
Connor.
up shit about him. I love this.
All right. Well, that's all we got for you this week. It's been a lot of fun doing Nick Cage.
Yeah.
So my sign-off this week is going to be... you know what? I do.
Oh, he did.
I
He
do
forgot
have
it.
one. No, I just flipped to the wrong page. We are having a blast. We love this man to death, and we're going to probably cover him every year. And if you don't like Nick Cage, fuck off for sure. Like, totally.